Hi, I'm Kathy Brown. Thank you for joining me for week 2, pose 2 in our Rest and Restore at Home online program. This week we will be doing basic relaxation pose. You may notice slightly different background this time. I've brought you into my space where I rest and relax versus my fireplace in the background. Slightly different background, but this is where I come where it's quiet, it's nice and calming and still. And see if you can find a place in your home like this. I have a door here I can close if it's kind of busy in the rest of the house. And I have my own little, space here where I can set up and I can practice and calm myself. So for this week's poses, if you haven't already checked out the section on what we will be needing, just pause the video here, go grab the props that you need, the supplies from around your home, and we'll meet you back here. The nice thing about this week is that the props that we are using, quote unquote props, are really things we can find around the house. It's very nice and simple. We all have these things. There's no excuse this week not to get into this pose for 20 minutes a day. I would love to know how you made out last week, if you got into the poses for 20 minutes, if you held them a few days. Maybe you held them for less than 20 minutes, so please make a comment on last week's video or comment in our online program. Let me know how it's going for you. So this week again, we will be using our pillow for our head. We will be using our eye mask to cover our eyes to make it nice and dark so we can go inside versus, having the external world kind of there for us. We will also, if you don't have an eye pillow, eye mask, or even a tea towel over your eyes works wonderful. You just need something, again, just to take the light out, to make it dark for you. We are also going to have our blanket that we will use just to cover ourselves up with when we are in the pose. Again, I won't be putting the blanket on myself during these poses throughout the practice. That way you can see what the pose looks like when you get into it. Then once I am in the pose, feel free to stop the video because the video will more or less be over then. Get into your pose yourself, set it up, and enjoy the relaxation. So grabbing your blanket that you're going to cover yourself up with. We're also going to grab, if you have it, if you don't, that's okay too, but if you happen to have a round bolster, grabbing that. If you do not have a round bolster, you're going to make one out of a blanket. So this blanket is the blanket from my bed upstairs. So it's a little bit thicker, than a cotton blanket. So there's a good thickness to this. So I've taken the blanket and I've folded it into quarters. So once this blanket is folded in quarters, we're going to start to roll this to make it into a bolster, a round bolster. So because we want a little bit of stability in here, we're going to take this top and we're going to almost fold it maybe 2/3 of the way down, maybe 1/3. And then from here, we're going to start to roll. Folding it here instead of starting to roll at the top will add a little bit more structure to this. So as we roll this up, again, keeping in mind the Princess and the Pea, I'm going to put it on the floor here. It makes it a little bit easier for me, even though you can't quite see it. Princess and the Pea, making sure there's no little bumps or blumps or, anything sticking out. So here I have my rolled blanket that I'm substituting for the round bolster. And you'll see, they're almost the same height. So again, bolster aside, we're going to take this blanket, we're going to put it towards the end of our mat, not right at the end, the bottom. This is going to go basically under our knees. Now you'll see here, I don't know if I will feel this, but I'm going to tuck this all in. Again, Princess and the Pea, so that there's nothing that's going to irritate my physical body as I'm in the practice. The next thing we're going to do is grab, a thinner blanket. So once again, we had this one out the other night. This one's very thin. This one would be nice to cover up with, but tonight I need it for another purpose. So once again, we are going to fold this blanket in quarters. And again, depending on the size of your blanket. But basically we are going to quarter that blanket. And then we're just going to, again, start with that fold about 1/3 of the way down. And then begin to roll. Once we have this blanket rolled up, we are going to place it just past the first blanket. So this blanket is going to be for under our knees. This blanket is for the back underneath our ankles. We want it right underneath the Achilles tendon here, just to add that extra support. So I don't know if you can really tell the height here, but maybe if I bring this closer. Ideally what we want is the knee support is double the size of the ankle support. So ankles are about half of what this blanket is in here. So when you're looking around the house for blankets to use, just keeping that in mind. Thinner one for the back of the ankles, thicker one for under the knees. And then last but not least, for this pose tonight, we are going to be supporting the hands. So we're going to grab 2 tea towels. Ideally, the towels are exactly the same. We want ones without, you know, the little pattern, like the ridges on it, so that we don't notice that. And again, we are going to quarter fold this. And then as we come down here, again, we're not going to roll it, but we're going to kind of keep it, you know, a little bit of a shelf here. So there's a little bit of an edge to that towel. We're going to do 2 of these, so we have one for either side. We're going to use that under our wrist. What we want to make sure here, and again, making sure my edges are all tucked in. What we want to make sure here, when we have our hands on the floor, we're going to be resting with our palms facing up. A little bit of support underneath the wrist, just like at the back of the ankles, is going to help you to relax, basically. It's going to bring the relaxation in really, really nice. So we have the 2 bones here. You know, we got this big bone on this side. There's another one on this side. When we place our hand on the props, we want to make sure it's straight across those 2 bones. If the towel's this way, even though you might not think so, it will unsettle you. You won't be able to relax as much. So we don't want to support the arms. We want those 2 bones. And of course I can't hold and do it at the same time. Maybe I can do this side. Those 2 bones resting right at the bottom of that towel when my hand's on the floor. So as this hand comes down, like I said, those 2 bones hit there. That nice little lip is just underneath the fingers, so it just gives a little bit of a lift to the back of the hand, right where those fingers attach. So again, 2 of these. We're going to place these on either side of our mat. I'm sorry, I don't think you're going to see my hands in this one. Then when we're all ready, making sure we have our eye pillow handy, making sure we have our blanket handy, placing a towel on either side, roughly where our hands are going to go. We're going to come down onto the props here. So again, this is going to go directly underneath my knees. The smaller blanket directly underneath my ankles. I'm going to allow myself to come down onto my back. And as I come down, the roll underneath, oh, you can't even see my head here, sorry guys. The roll underneath my knee shifts a little bit. So just like I did to kind of get back on screen here, just moving that bolster a little bit, that blanket, so we have that extra support right underneath our knees. We're going to take our pillow, we're going to bring it in, and as we bring this pillow into, we don't just want it on our head, we want it tucked in a little bit underneath the back of our shoulders. So coming back down onto the blanket, once we are here, we have everything set up. Again, I'm just going to pull this in so you can maybe see it a little bit. Ideally, your hands are up nice and wide. I'm pulling my hand in just a little bit just because it makes it easier for you to see this, hopefully. So as I lay my hand on this towel, I'm going to make sure both of those bones are level across the back of that. Back of my hand rests. Grabbing my eye pillow. And then once again, you're going to say, hey Google, set a timer for 20 minutes.
Okay, 20 minutes, starting now.
And we will see you next week in the next video.